Dr. Sadiq, should we officially start now? It's 6 p.m. over here.
Yeah, I think maybe give people another couple of minutes as people are still joining. Maybe we can start at 9:03.
Understood.
I think we can get started probably.
Okay, sir. I am starting. Um, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Abdullah Ahmed. I am a final year medical student from CMH Lahore Medical College. I am representing CMH Student Research Club, CMH SRC, which is one of the partners of this collaboration. I serve as the head of advisory board for CMH SRC, and I will be the moderator for this webinar. I welcome you all to our session on SPSS, which is part of the largest collaboration in research in Pakistan between APNA and various student research forums in Pakistan. First, I would like to invite the man behind this endeavor to speak a few words. We have Dr. Sadiq Naveed, who is the Psychiatry Program Director at Eastern Connecticut Health Network, Associate Professor of Psychiatry at University of Connecticut and Frank H. Netter School of Medicine at Quinnipiac University. He is a Fellow of Infant and Parent Mental Health at University of Massachusetts and Associate Editor of PMC Psychiatry. He is a man that has mentored so many of us USMLE aspirants under the APNA banner, and I am very grateful that he has given us yet another opportunity of learning. Dr. Sadiq Naveed, please take the mic.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. So I'm just going to talk for briefly, and I know I'm getting messages in the chat too about helping people joining. So let me just finish with my part and then I'll go there. I think, when we started this process, I immediately reached out to the IFMSA Pakistan team, International Federation of Medical Student Association, and the plan was to have a collaboration with IFMSA and see how we can convert this into the reality. In this process, we involved different collaborators, different student research bodies, in addition to UPNA and IFMSA. For example, you can see from the top Student Research Forum, CHSR from Fatma Memorial Hospital, NRC SF, which is National Research Student Foundation. SPARC is a student body of King Edward Medical University, and then Student Research Club, and Scope Research Exchange. So we really help, we are really thankful for all the partners and collaborators coming together on this and being part of this initiative. I think this goes without saying, it would not have been possible. I did not do any work. A lot of work was done by IFMSA team, Juberia, Aisha, Maliha, Huzafa, Iman, Walid, and Hamza. They did a tremendous amount of work in putting this together. So if you know how to give a reaction on the webinar, please give them a reaction, round of applause. Thank you, congratulations for making this to a reality. Now, when we are doing this, I see there's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm from the medical student. They want to, after this, they want to start doing the freelance work. They want to do the, high level research. But let me tell you, if you see the picture on the left-hand side, the research path is very complicated. And in this path, you will continue to learn and evolve. And the most important thing is that you stay on course, you continue to have the attitude of a learner. And you can see this girl, possibly a girl in the picture below. It seems like she's in a despair or she's confused. You will feel like this at times. And all of us have felt like that. And Dr. Ali Heather, who is our speaker for today, probably has felt like that in many moments. So just be aware that, this happens to all of us. So in this process of learning, you should not, you will feel hopeless, but don't get bogged down by that. Don't quit at that time, just keep going. So, and really a good thing that I can tell you is, is for me, initiative is everything. We have a lot of YouTube videos on data analysis and manuscript writing. It's about taking initiative at starting. You see, this is my research profile, and I have only 4 years here, starting from 2016. That's when I started. This was 11 years out of the medical school. And a lot of people who are here, they're just in the medical school. So you guys are way ahead of us. So just continue the path, work hard, and just try to learn. I really appreciate all the speakers for being here. Let's get started. This is the schedule. I have shared it in the group too. We will have 4 webinars on 4 different weekends. Each will last for 90 minutes. And let's start. So Ahmed, mic is back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sadiq. Now we can officially start our seminar. Before we start, I will request all participants to keep their mics mute, and please note that there will be a Q&A session at the end where we will answer all your queries. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ali Heather. Dr. Ali Heather has completed his MBBS from NUMS Rawalpindi. He is a neurosurgery aspirant with multiple publications in renowned national and international journals. He has recently secured a $2,000 grant for a randomized controlled trial by his alma mater. You guys are definitely in good hands. Welcome, Dr. Ali. Please take the lead.
Thank you so much, Abdullah, and thank you so much, Dr. Sadiq. Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Ali Heather, and I'm a fresh graduate from National University of Medical Sciences. My medical school was High Tech Institute of Medical Sciences. Abdullah must know this, that degree from the same university, and I have been awarded a grant of $2,000 for a randomized clinical trial from the Vice Chancellor of National Institute of Medical Sciences. So far, I have the Dr. Sadiq talked about the research journey that is very complex, and of course, it is very complex and very it needs effort, motivation, and a strong mind. So don't be hopeless at any point. You will fall from from sky on the earth. So don't let anyone demotivate you. I will talk about all the things. So far I have started my journey in yeah, sir, am I audible?
Dr. Ali, your voice, your volume is pretty low. Participants are mentioning that they can't hear you properly.
Now can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think if you're able to bring the audio, the mic close to your mouth, that might be better.
Now can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. Let's ask other people.
Am I clear? My voice is clear to everyone?
If you can speak a little bit louder, I think that would be helpful too.
Okay. So let's start my brief introduction. Again, I'm Dr. Ali Haider. I'm a fresh graduate from High-Tech Institute of Medical Sciences. My alma mater university was NUMS, and Abdullah and me, we share the same university. I'm doing house job at HIT Hospital in the Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery. So my research profile is as I have started my research journey in the end of fourth year, like in 2021, when I didn't even know the ABC of the research. And so far, I have completed almost 22 to 23 research articles and
Yeah, I think you have to keep the volume loud, because I think the issue is that if it is possible to take off your headset and just speak a little bit loudly, because I think when you get into routine, your voice goes down.
I think I have issue with the capacitor of my headset. Now my voice is clear and audible. Everyone, please let me know.
Okay, so just be aware that just stay a little bit louder, because okay, thank you. So
my brief introduction, I have almost 10 publications in hand, and I have completed 23 research articles. Most of them are the written article, clinical trials, review, and some I'm recently working on meta-analysis also. So today's session will be on SPSS, and I would like to thank Dr. Sadiq Naveed and all the collaborators for this research session to providing me an opportunity. Inshallah, I believe after this session, you all will be able to do data analysis and on your own, inshallah. Let's start our today's session, and Dr. Sadiq, please allow me to share my screen.
So you should be able to share your screen since you're co-host.
Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, Dr. Ali.
Okay. If there is no problem, can I switch off my video to make the video smoother from my side?
Sure.
So I'm Dr. Ali Haider, and all of you are now, I have given my brief introduction. I'm a research associate at DM Biohealth, and I'm also doing house job in HIT Hospital, Texas. In our today's session, we will discuss about data analysis. Our main focus will be the data analysis, but before reaching the data analysis part, I think we should start build some background, some basic concepts. We should discuss some basic concepts to for the data analysis that are must to know concepts for the data analysis. So for the data analysis, you all needs a research. Like if we are doing some data analysis or anyone who is doing data analysis, he must be at the stage of his research study because data analysis is needed in all types of research studies, like if for the original articles and for the meta-analysis, for the review literature, every type of research you need, you collect data and then you analyze. So before discussing data analysis, it is better to discuss from the scratch, like research. What is the research? You all are familiar with the word research from the beginning of medical school. Students talk about research. We are doing research. We will do research. Some of your class fellows will say that we are in that part of our research. So, what is research? Have any one of you idea or must have an idea for the research? But have you just take a moment to think that why we are doing research and what is the main process or the meaning of that research? So if we talk that, let's say, if we define the research, like it is like a process in which we collect data and then we analyze that data to extract some useful information and interesting facts or some anything that the data, it depends on data. If you want to extract some interesting fact or if you want to understand a problem or a pathogenesis or the physiological phenomena, anything. So if we define research, I would say that it is research is a systematic process in which we collect data and then we analyze that data. And then after analyzing of data, we extract some useful information. Either it is a phenomena of physiology, it is a pathophysiology, or it is some interesting facts about a disease, or some facts about the spread of a disease, like its kinetic effects or its potential effects of the disease on a society. Again, research means that if we divide the research in syllables, it means again find and step-by-step process. So now we have discussed research. Have you ever think that what is the types of research? In the we all are familiar with the word of research now. So research is of two types. We divide the research either it as a formal or informal. What is the informal research? You all must know this, the formal research that is currently going on in universities, in medical schools, in almost all universities. And what is the informal research? Have you ever tried to think that what is informal research? Actually, research we all are doing research in our daily life. Like we go to school, medical school, we encountered a word that of medical world. Like let's take an example. In my first year, we encountered the word lateral, posterior lateral, and lateral in the anatomy in the first year. So we used to search on phone on Google, and then we read two or three definitions from Google from different websites, and then we understand. Okay, so posterior lateral means this, and like these types of things. This is the informal research. You do the work, you find and you search for the facts or the findings, and if you don't publish and if you don't follow an official process or a step-by-step documented approach, then your research will be informal. In some part of our life or in our medical school or study, you all have planned to start a research. You gathered some search for some literature search for the topic, some background knowledge, and then at some point, because of some reason, you get demotivated. Like it is time consuming. I can't understand the terms. I can't understand the types of things that I'm encountering during research because you don't know about the research. You stop that research in the initial stage. So it is not your formal research, but it is informal. And when we follow a proper process that we start documented title, we send an synopsis for an approval from ethical review committees or the institutional review boards or of our medical schools or universities. And then after getting approval, documented approval, we start collecting data that is documented. We save that data, we analyze that data, and after that we wrote an article and get our article published in any of the journals. So we followed a process, a formal process. So this research will be called as formal research.
So, Dr. Heather, I think
Uh,
Dr. Heather, your voice is, I think, still low. If you can keep it a little bit higher, that would help. And I think if you speak a little bit slower and like in a slow rate but higher tone, that would help.
Okay, sir. Now am I audible?
You are audible to
All
me all the time.
my voice is like it. Okay, I understand. So if we talk about the types of research, again, that our webinar focuses on the data analysis. So I would like to divide the research on the basis of data analysis. So on the basis of the data that we collected during our research or during our data collection phase, so we divide the research into a qualitative research and a quantitative research. So what are the qualitative research and quantitative research? If your data, in simple words, we talk about that if your data is quantifiable, you can quantify your data. So like if you want to know the age group of your medical school, of your society, of your city, that how many people belongs to what age group, like 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and you want to know that how many percent of the population of my school, my society, my city belongs to what age group. So your age is quantifiable, and then your data is quantitative data. And if we say that your research, what will be the type of your research? Your research will be quantitative research. In my experience, when I was the president of the Student Research Society, I was also the member of Ethical Review Committee and Institutional Review Board. I was a student member of that board. And in my experience, I encountered many students whose data or whose concept or their study concept was quantitative research, but they have mentioned in the documents that their research will be a qualitative research. So it is a very common mistake. That's why I have put this research, that we divide the research on the basis of data. If your data is quantifiable and your data is quantitative data, and if you mention your research as a qualitative, then it will be a big mistake, and your synopsis or your study will be rejected in the start. The reviewer will read just a word, okay, his data and the concept is quantitative, and he wrote that he will do a qualitative research. So on the basis of data, we divide our research in quantitative and qualitative. In qualitative research, we actually want to know the qualities or the categories. We use some, like you want to know the opinion of someone about a disease. Let's take an example, that if you want to know the basic myths about like polio vaccine. Okay, so you write in a questionnaire that what you think about polio vaccine. Is it harmful for human body or not? So if you want to know the opinion or the something like attitude of someone in your research, and your research question and the answers to that questions are agree, strongly agree, maybe, maybe not. So your research will be, your data will be qualitative research. You want to assess the quality or you want to know the attitude. Your data is not quantifiable. How you are going to quantify strongly agree, agree, disagree, neutral? So we divide the research on the basis of data, qualitative and quantitative. Like I have added the myths about vaccine. So we again discuss this example that myths about vaccine is a topic and frequency of myths is quantifiable. So we divided same topic, but if we are discussing the frequencies, our research will be quantitative. And if we want to just know the attitude of the population about the vaccine, then our research will be qualitative. Okay, so this is the practical knowledge. You all must know something more than me, in because in fourth year we all studied community medicine, and in community medicine we discussed the biostatistics, we discussed the epidemiology. So I have added this slide for the practical reasons. So what are the type of research studies in the market or in the journals? You are doing a research, and if you don't know what is the type of your research study, either it is a case report, it is a review article, and it is a commentary, it is a reflective essay, a book review, or the letter to the editors. These are the types of research studies. So we divide the research studies into original articles. We divided the research studies into the case reports, case series, and we also divide research studies on the basis of review articles. And review articles nowadays they are trending. They are like top trend. Systematic review, or the systemic review, and the meta-analysis, or the literature review, or the narrative review. Original articles, we divide original articles into observational studies, in which we just observe the disease. We just observe the natural process of the disease. We do not want to interfere. We don't want to alter that research or alter that process or we just observe a disease, its spread, its age group, what age group it affects, in what area it has more frequency, or sorry, or the more prevalence, and what area it has more incidence. So when we are just observing a disease, our research article will be an original study, and our study will be the observational. But if you are discussing or studying the causes or the factors that are responsible for causing a disease, your study will be analytical. And in clinical trials they involves actually the intervention. I'm doing the clinical trial nowadays that involves the intervention we are doing in a department of surgery, and it is on the types of dressings that are used in our daily practice. And now we are comparing the dressings that we use nowadays with an upgraded and a new type of dressing that we have made by ourselves, and now we are testing that dressing with the dressing that is already in use by our hospital uh, for the infections, for the surgical site infection. So when we are doing some intervention in a natural process, and we now want to compare the intervention with the already existing process, so we are actually doing a trial. So if we are doing, of course we are doing that trial in a clinical practice, So it is called the clinical trial. In the case reports, actually these are the cases that you encountered in the hospital, in the clinical practice, and then you report your cases. These are not those cases like fever, like influenza, like sinusitis, mastocytitis. These are the common cases. Actually, case reports uh, are those cases that are very rare, and that the pathological process or something different from the usually found pathogenesis or the physiological phenomena in the clinical practice. So these are the rare cases that needs to be reported to let the science community know about that process, that this process also exists, although it is rare, and it exists. So when we talk about the review articles, we have three types of review articles, like literature review or the narrative review articles. In these types of articles, we only do the search about a research question. And now, what is the research question? Actually, it is a question or it is a problem that you've encountered in your daily life or in your daily routine or in the clinical routine. You start searching. Similarly, as I give an example from my first year MBBS, then when we used to heard the new words, we used to search it on Google, and after reading two or three definitions from consulting two or three websites, okay, we do not document our findings. But in literature review, it is just like this. You encountered a research question in your mind, that if we use pyodine for our surgical site infections, why are we using pyodine? It is does it have some other qualities? Why we don't use cypress? And like these types of simple questions, I've just given you an example. So you encounter a research question in your mind, then you start searching on the internet for to answer that question, and then you narrate all the findings that you have found on the scientific literature. This is the narrative review. You just narrate the findings or the results that you have found on in your search. But in the systemic reviews, we do the narrative review also, and we also talk about the results that the scientist or the studies. Actually, we in this we have a larger number of sample. And in meta-analysis, actually meta-analysis seems very simple and easy, but it is the toughest type of the research. In these researches, in these types of studies, we do the analysis by ourselves from the scratch. So in last, I have put two or three types of research studies that exist, like commentaries. In commentaries, you just make comments on somebody else findings. Like if I published my clinical trial, inshallah someday, a scientist found my clinical trial and he wrote a commentary, write a comments on my study, that I have used, I lagged in this area. In this area, my study do not support some more things. We need to make our operation, my operation room should be like this and like this. It's just like criticism. And in reflective essays, it's just like you have wrote an article and you write an essay of 1 or 2 pages. My article was of 18 or 15 pages, and a scientist found my article and he wrote the summary of my article. Like it is the reflective essay. Book review, as the name suggesting, that you wrote a book review, that what areas that book covers, and in what area it lags. And letter to editors, you all are must familiar with the letter to editors. In these types of studies, we actually let the editor of a journal know about a disease that is prevailing in the city or the society, and it needs to be published. So these are the basic concepts of the types of studies. Most of the students are not familiar with these studies. They just know that I'm doing a review article, but he do not know about the either he wants to do a systemic review or the meta-analysis. So if we talk about the types of study on the basis of data analysis, we have two types of the studies. We divide all these articles or these types of articles, types of studies on the basis of data analysis into two categories. And these two categories you all have studied and will study, inshallah, if you are in the initial years of your medical school. After in fourth year, inshallah, you all will study, and those who are senior, they have studied. You are familiar with these two words, descriptive and analytical study. And when we divide our study on the basis of data analysis, we have two types of studies. Previously, we have divided our type of research on the basis of data into again into qualitative research and quantitative research. And now we are dividing our types of studies on the basis of data analysis. We divide it into descriptive and analytical. So what are the descriptive studies? I have previously talked that in descriptive studies, we actually discussing about the disease, like we just observing and stating our finding that we have found disease, we have found COVID-19 in Karachi, in that area. It has this much burden on that hospital, on the health system of Karachi, its dynamics, in what age group it is affecting the most, in what type of social class it is affecting the most, at what time it spreads the most, and in what time its incidence and prevalence is very less and low. So when you are just want to quantify and was just want to state the process of a disease or a process of anything, you are actually doing a descriptive study. And you, if this, you are not just stating, you are analyzing the data that you have collected, and you want to now state it, your findings, on the basis of its spread, its burden in time, place, person. So if we talk about data analysis, and we discuss the other type of study, that is analytical. In analytical studies, actually, I have told that I have discussed in the last part of my slides that in analytical types of or the quantitative types of studies, you actually want to know the factors, the patterns, or the determinants or the causes of something on something based on a hypothesis. Actually, in analytical studies, we actually test the hypothesis. Now, what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is like this. Many scientists talk about a disease process, and then they make a hypothesis. And some scientists want to check that if their finding is correct or not. So if you want to test a hypothesis, you will do an analytical study. Here I have again divided for your ease that the classification of study on the basis of data analysis. I have combined both my last lecture, and it is the summary of our previous discussion. So we divide the studies into descriptive and analytical. First, we discuss the descriptive. What you do in the descriptive studies, you just observe it. These are the observational studies. And what are the practical or the types of articles or the studies that you that you needs to know, and what we call name those studies in the journals or in the market. In observational studies or the descriptive studies, we have case reports. Case reports, as I told, that it is the reporting of a rare pathological or the physiological process that occurs, but not oftenly. It is very rarely. And now in case series, what is case report and case series? In case series, we discuss some same type of pathological process. I want to take this moment to explain that if you people remember, in 2000, in the start of 2019, a doctor in Wuhan, in China, reported, he wrote a case series, and he published that in a journal, and he also reported to his government that I have encountered so many cases of flu, a rare type of flu, that it damages the lungs so much. And he almost reported almost 20, he said in his article that the frequency of this flu is almost 100. I have encountered almost 100 patients every week. And before publishing his findings, I think he died because of COVID-19. So when you are reporting a series of similar type of cases that involves the same rare pathological process or the physiological process about any disease, so you are reporting a case series. What are the cross-sectional studies? Cross-sectional studies, they belong to the original articles from the original studies. So in cross-sectional studies, you just observe. We usually call cross-sectional studies in our Pakistan, cross-sectional studies involves mostly surveys, like CAP surveys, knowledge, attitude, or the practice surveys. Other surveys, no, I have just covered all the three aspects of the surveys: knowledge, aptitude, practice. Mostly surveys involve these things, like what is the how much levels of knowledge present in a society, what is the attitude of population against that disease or against that thing, and what practices people, yeah, population took for the prevention of this disease or something like. And what are the ecological studies? This is a new word or the new study. In ecological studies, actually, these are the cross-sectional studies, but at a larger or the community level. We usually compare in ecological studies the prevalence of, just take an example of diabetes. So we compare the prevalence of diabetes in India with in Pakistan, and with the prevalence of diabetes in Pakistan, we discuss it with we compare it with UK, Europe, Southeast Asia, and for the whole. So when we are doing a cross-sectional study, in simple word, I would say that if we are discussing or just observing, or we are doing a cross-sectional study at a larger level or a country level or an continent level, we will call our that study ecological study. And what these studies help us, they will help us to generate a hypothesis. These studies, their results and their findings will help us in generating a statement about a disease. And when we came to the analytical study, we divide our studies again into observational and into experimental. And now again revising the concept, what are the analytical studies? Analytical studies are actually those studies when you quantify. These are also called the quantitative research. Again, I have discussed it in previous slides. In analytical studies, we again divide these studies into observationals and experimentals. In observation, we are actually talking about the case control or the cohort studies. You all are familiar with these studies. And in experimental studies, we are doing the clinical trial. And what is the community trial? Actually, it is a new word, community trial and clinical trial. Let's again take example of COVID-19. If we are doing a trial or a comparison of some intervention with already existing phenomena or the interventions in our hospital setting, we will call it as clinical trial. And if we take that trial or that comparison at a community level, then we will call it as community travel. You can take an example of vaccine. In the start of COVID in the 2020, in Pakistan, the programs, the government level programs ran of vaccination. In the start of 1 or 2 weeks, they were just, it was a trial that Sinovac is good, Sinopharm is good, or like, is this vaccine is beneficial, effective against COVID or not? So these are the community trials, and analytical studies will help you to test the hypothesis, to test the statement that has been generated during descriptive or the observational study. And before going to the data analysis, I would like to also discuss about the biostatistics that involves the knowledge of these concepts, and these things will be useful, and they will be required while doing an SPSS analysis. Abdullah, am I audible clearly now?
Yeah. I think people are listening to you.
Okay, so thank you. So what is biostatistics? You again, the students from the initial years of the medical school must do not know about the biostatistics, and the senior will know. But like, again, revise that concept. Biostatistics. What is the bio? Bio means life. Statistics mean, again, it is the statistics. It is the spread of data. I'm just giving my opinion and my definition that I have, my concept that helped me to learn the biostatistics and its interpretations and data analysis in my final year and my fourth year. So I think, and I used to learn with this concept that in stats we spread population, we spread people on a table, and then we count them and analyze them and interpret them. And when we talk about the biostatistics, we are actually spreading life on a table in a spreadsheet, and then we are going to analyze it, we are going to count it, we are going to find a trend in it, and then we interpret our results and then present. So this is my concept. And if we talk about the definition, it is the collection, analysis, and interpretation, presentation, and dissemination of data of medical importance. Focus on the words. You collect the data, you analyze that data, then you interpret that data, and then you start presentation. You presenting your research, your finding in the form of writing, in the form of tables, in the form of charts, and then you disseminate your data in the form of a publication. Not all the data, just the data of medical importance, the occurring of something or some anything. So this is the biostatistics. Again, we are doing data analysis, so we will discuss that what type of statistics that we encounter. There is many type of statistics, but as a general, we divide the statistics into the descriptive and inferential. Again, we are encountering the same words. Descriptive analytical and inferential. Inferential is also called analytical. And again, we are discussing the types of research here. We have talked previously that we have two types of research. I'm just revising. We have two types of research, qualitative and quantitative. And then we divide it into qualitative is actually the descriptive. It assess the qualities, it assess the burdens of or the disease dynamics in the form of time, place, person. And in analytical or the quantitative research or the studies, we actually wants to know the factors, the causes or the determinants of that process. So what is data? Now we are discussing, we are doing a webinar on data analysis. We must first know about the data. What is data? What is data? Or you all know that data. Data is actually, it is the observations of any population about any single process, about even a bacteria. If you are just observing only one bacteria, it is of no use. And when you are now observing a complete colony of bacterias, different colonies, and you have so much observations about that colonies and that bacterias, so collectively they carry a lot of meanings that you should know and that are necessary for your life. Let's take, I'm doing research on surgical infections. So if I took just one infection, I don't think so it will means a lot. But if I am encountering so many infections of with so many reasons, and these are very vague and ambiguous, so I will collect those observations, and when I have collected those observations, I will call it as a data. So if we talk about the definitions, data is actually the discrete observations of attributes or events that carry little meaning when considered alone. This is the bookish definition. But and one more thing that I forgot to discuss, that in data you may encounter the variables. And what are the variables? Of course, if I have some 100 observations are not same. Even in case series, your all 10, 20, 2500 cases are not same. They must be same in some in terms of pathological process, but it is different from in the terms of age, in terms of male female, in terms of uh, residence, in terms of social status. So if your observation is variable and it also contains variables and it is a set of observation, you will call it as data. We have now discussed the word variables, and we encountered this word very oftenly in our research in data analysis. What are variables? What are variables? So I will want to share some concepts like from A to Z, like concepts for all of you, that what is a variable. As its name suggesting that it will vary from person to person, from maybe time to time, or from place to place. It is the thing that is continuously varying. It is not same in your observations, it is not same in your data. So this is the variables, and we have now different types of variables. If you take an example, like of course you have 100 people, not all of them have the same blood group. Even 20, 40, 30 will have the same A positive, B positive, O positive, O negative, but not all people will have the same type of blood group. And if we talk about places, in 100 observations, it is not necessary that all of your uh, persons or the people were from the same year or from the same country or from the same age group. So when these things, or the in observation, the things that varies from person to person, from place to place, from time to time, these are the variables, and they are variables are of much importance. They can even make your study biased, they can even destroy your results. We divide these variables on the basis of their functions. Here again we can take an example of weight of preschool children's, amount of HB, age of patients in medical OPDs. So what are the types of variables? I was saying that we divide variables on the basis of their functions. So first classification that we made variables on the basis of their dependence, either they or the relationship, either it is they are dependent on each other or they are independent on each other. Here we can take an example like we discussed like a cause. You can say that like COVID-19, yeah, COVID coronavirus is the cause of COVID-19 disease. So here is the question: COVID-19 coronavirus, it is dependent, it will cause disease. And if you talk about the effect that it cause on the lungs, it causes acute respiratory distress, it causes acute respiratory infection. And it is not the alone COVID. Pneumonia is also a cause of acute respiratory infection, and bacteria are the causes, fungus is the causes, and some other viruses also are the big cause of acute respiratory infection. So this is dependent and the independent variables. Part or another type of classification on which we divide our variables, we divide our variables into categorical and numerical. So these variables actually are I think are the this classification is more important to discuss in detail, because while doing data analysis you encounter these variables very often. In even in SPSS, you have options of categorical, numerical, nominal, ordinal, discrete, continuous variables. So just discuss these things in details, like what are these variables. So this classification is actually based on the type of data that is generated during the data collection. Of course, while you are collecting the data, you will not only collect the knowledge, attitude, or the practice, or the pathological phenomena. You will also collect the age of patients. You will also collect the area residence of patients. You will also want to know the social status of patients. You also want to know about the weight, height, blood group, all things of the patient. These are the part of demographic details. So what to do with these variables and how to label them? Just remember, while doing data analysis, if you do not label your variables on the basis of this classification in the software, you will never get the desired results or the correct results. Software will give you the results. It is programmed to do that analysis on every type of data that is entered. But if you do not enter your data correctly in SPSS on the basis of variables, you do not label your variables correctly, your data, you will never get the correct or the desired results. So in qualitative research and quantitative research, we have again, I told you that on the basis of data, here against the concept came that on the basis of data, we divide research into qualitative and quantitative. So in qualitative, what are the qualitative variables? These are actually the categorical variables. And what are the categorical variables? Categorical variables involves the categories. It is very simple. Categorical variables involves categories. I will discuss in detail now these things. And in numerical or the quantitative variables, you have the numerical or the quantifiable data. Now, what are the nominal and the ordinal variables? And what are the discrete and the continuous variables? Nominal variable is, you can take example, I am nominated as Dr. Ali Haider. Dr. Abdullah, he is nominated as Abdullah. And when we take write our year of graduation or our year of study or our year of medical school, we are now nominating and now put an order with our name. So we are now ordinal variables. Let's take an example. I'm Dr. Ali Haider. I'm a fresh graduate. I'm a house officer. We have Dr. Abdullah. He is from CMH and he's final year medical student. So I'm a house officer. I have labeled as an house officer and he's labeled as a final year medical student. So you have an order with nominations. So this is the ordinal variables. In ordinal variables, we categorize and then nominate our variables in an order, like in level of education, in level of knowledge, in level of order, in a hierarchy system, like in an order we arrange our variables. So this is the ordinal variables. Now, what are the discrete numerical variables and continuous numerical variables? Discrete variables are actually, these are the whole words. We will discuss the examples in the next slide, inshallah. In discrete variables, actually, these are the whole figures, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in continuous variables, we have like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Now, just take a very small example. I ask myself that how many siblings do you have? None of you have 1.1 sibling. You will say like 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the discrete variable that is in whole figure. And if I ask you that what is your height, many of you will say my height is 5 feet 3 inches, 5 feet 2, 5 feet 4, 5 feet 5, 5, 6, 5, 7, 5, 8. So this is like 5.7, 5.9. It is continuous between 5 and 6. You are discussing the decimals in whole figures. This is the continuous data that is continuously running. Again, I have added these words you will encounter in your SPSS, like categorical and scale. Again, I have mentioned that categorical variables are for the qualitative research studies, qualitative types of studies, and scale variables are actually for the quantitative type of research studies. Again, we divide categorical variables into nominal and ordinal. And when we mention scale, we quantify our variable, and we do not mention them as a group. We have a scale. You can take an example, like if you have a scale to measure something, this is your quantitative variable. And if you do not have any scale to measure or to quantify something, this will be your categorical variable. This is the simple concept. In nominal variable, you just nominate marital status. This is a part of demographic details. Marital status: married, single, divorced, married, not married, divorced. You just categorized. how you are going to measure a married man, how you are going to measure an unmarried or the divorced person. No, you don't have any scale. So just nominate it, and it is a qualitative. Political party, eye colors. Have you any instrument or the scale to measure the eye color? No. And if you, now this is the nominal variable, you nominate that. And in ordinal variables, what is the satisfaction level? In most of the our final year, my fellow colleagues from Nishtar, from Punjab Medical College, they were doing research on the satisfaction level of patient coming to the public sector OPD versus private OPD. So if you want to know about the satisfaction level, you have not a scale until or unless you devised a new scale like a Likert scale. In the end, we will also discuss the Likert scale. So if you have want to rank the satisfaction level, not satisfied, unsatisfied, very satisfied, excellent, like, now you have nominated, you make the categories, and now you have levels, you make levels for this. So if you have these types of levels, or the level of education, yeah, the level of knowledge, types of attitude, so you order, you make an order in them, and then you have you will label these variables as an ordinal variable. And for the scale, now come to the measurement for the scale. So you are now have a quantitative data. You have a scale to measure height, like 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet. You have a scale to measure the weight, 45 kg, 90 kg, 100 kg, 120, 130, 140. And you have units, pounds, kilograms. You have time, you measure time in seconds, minutes, hours. You have income. This is the part, these are the parts of demographic details, and you have to label these variables. So that's why we discussed these variables, these concepts for the data analysis to make a background for this. Dr. Naveed, I want to know that how much time we have left.
So we right now with me time is 7:07. So I think we definitely with question and answer sessions we want to wrap up by 7:50. So maybe if we can go to slides in next we can finish in next 20-25 minutes, and then we can take questions.
Okay, sir. Inshallah, I will be able to cover all these things. Inshallah. Again, let's continue our slides. That again, I have mentioned another slides with some different and more elaborated examples. We have categorical and numerical variables, and numerical variables we measured as scale, like as I have mentioned, age 1, 2, 3, 1.5 years. Now, just take an example here. I have added it as a 1.5. Our age can be, if you are taking, it depends on you. If you taken your age in just years, will be discrete variables. And if you have taken your age as year and month and days, it will be, you can label it as continuous, like 1.5 years. If you have days now, or you want to mention the whole age, then it will be discrete, like 1 year, 3 months and 15 days. And if you want to just mention in the terms of years, like 1.5 years, you don't want to round off, or you ignore the months. If you ignore the months, you just counted years, it will be discrete in whole figure. And if you have mentioned it in points with months as a point, it is continuous. Height is, of course, it is continuous variable. Weight, it is of course continuous variables, until unless you do not round off it, or you just take the kilograms or the pounds. And in nomination, in nominal variables or the categorical variables, you nominated uh, as male, female, group old, young, blood group A positive, negative, ethnic group Asian, American, languages, language speaking, Urdu speaking, English speaking, Pashto, education as an illiterate or literate. You nominated them. And in ordinal variables, pain, although it is category, pain present or not, if you mention it as pain present or not, it is nominal. And if you mention pain as mild, moderate, severe, it is ordinal. And similarly, education status, it is illiterate or literate, it is nomination. And when you mention education status as metric pass, intermediate, A levels, O levels, BS, PhD, doctorate, MBBS, graduation, you put an order. This is education. So this will be the ordinal. Same, if you want to make your age as a categorical, you can mention it as age groups: young, middle age, or the old. Here another examples of these variables. I think we have discussed so many examples. I just want to just cover up the small properties of variables. So in nominal variables, you actually categorized and your data is unordered. Either it is female male, male female. And if you have two types of categories, your data will be dichotomous. Nominal variable will be dichotomous. And if you have many types like primary pass, middle school pass, bachelor's, master's, PhD, so you have so many categories, so your variable will not be dichotomous, it will be multi or the poly. In ordinal variables, you actually make an order and you place them as mild, severe, from zero, from in ascending order or descending disorder, in simple words. And when you talk about the number of births or the discrete variables, I have added the examples of discrete number of births. Nobody will say that 1.5 births in some area. It is 2 births, 3 births, 1,000, 12,000, 13,000. So their properties actually, they are in the whole numbers and they will be just these are the whole numbers. And if you are taking the continuous variables, these are actually the in points and they can be infinite too. So the statistical measurements that we used in descriptive or the qualitative research and quantitative research, actually from now these we have some enough background for the SPSS analysis. So statistical measurements that we actually wants to calculate, almost many of you are doing research, cross-sectional research, attitude level. Now you have some revision of concepts and now you have some concepts that now what is the question is, what do you want to count or to analyze or to extract from your data? So if you are doing a descriptive study, you will calculate the frequencies. As we talk that descriptive studies will cover up the mix of a disease in time, place, person, and simply you want to calculate the frequencies and measures of frequencies like central tendency and dispersion. What are these terms? I will tell you inshallah. And in inferential statistics like analytical studies, what you need to calculate or you count or analyze or interpret it is the estimation and hypothesis testing. I will cover up inshallah descriptive statistics, and hypothesis testing and estimation will be covered in next webinars. So what is the measures of descriptive statistics? We actually count the frequency and we count the frequency distributions like absolute frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequencies. Now I have mentioned these words. Now what are these frequencies? Absolute frequency is actually the number of observations that are present in your data. Let's take an example. You have 100 students in any class, and you want to know that how many students are 20-year-old. You took the age of all 100 people and now you are observing 20 years. Let's suppose you have found almost 60 students in your class are 20 years old. So this is 60 out of 100. So 60 is the absolute frequency of the 20 years old students in the data of 100, in the data of your class. And what is relative frequency? Now, relative frequency is the percentage. It is calculated as a percentage. Relative frequency is the percentage of 20-year-old students in your class. If you have, I have took an easy example. You have absolute frequency of 60 out of 100. Now, if you calculate the percentage of 20-year-old students, how many percent of class is made of 20 years old people? So you took number absolute frequency 60, you divided it by the total number 100, multiply with 100 percentage. You just need to calculate the percentage. So what is the result? It is a 60%. So what is the relative frequency of 20-year-old students in your class of 100? It is 60%. Now the question is cumulative frequency. It is something tricky. In concept, it is not very tricky in real. So cumulative frequency is actually, it is the sum of, yeah, you can say that you combine two groups. Now you want to know that how many percent of class is made of 25-year-old students. Let's suppose 25-year-old students are 20%. Make the 20% of your class. You combine 20 and 25. So the cumulative frequency of both groups is 80. So the 80% class is made of 20 to 25-year-old students. This is the cumulative frequency. I have just added a table. This is absolute frequency of ages like 10 to 19 with 5 students, and relative frequency of the total number of data. We divide absolute frequency with relative frequency and then multiply with 100. So 8.7% of population is making the making 8.7% population is made of 10 to 19 years old age group. So in cumulative frequency, you are now combining the relative frequency of two groups, and you not mentioned again. The arrow is will be clearing your concept. So if we take an example of 30 to 39 years, so we can say that 41 plus the total frequency, that how many of total, this is the total, that if we reach 39 years old, that how many population or the person of data has been covered up now. This is the basic concept of cumulative frequency. Now, what is the central tendency? Central tendency is the your data.
Dr. Heather, can you
Yes.
explain again about absolute frequency and cumulative and relative? Because there are some questions that are popping in the chat, and I think we can answer them right away.
Sure, sir. Sure. Actually, in absolute frequency, it is just again example. You have a class of 100 students, and all of are some of different ages, like 10 year, 20 years. I'm just taking an example. You have a population of 100 people from age of 10 years to 80 years. Just take example from this table. Now you have calculated that only 5 people lie in the age group of 10 to 19. Only 19 people lies in the age group of 20 to 19. And only similarly and as on like when we discuss that 70 to 79 age group involves only 2 people. So this is the absolute frequency, that how many observations of similar age group are present in your data. And when you want to take the relative frequency or want to talk about the relative frequency, it is actually the percentage of age group as compared to the whole group. From 100%, I would say that absolute relative frequency is something like 8.7% people made the sorry 5 people of age group 10 to 19 make an 8.7% of the 100% population. This is the relative frequency. I have covered all these 3 things, that this much age group have 5 people out of 100, and they are making this part of our whole data, like 8.7% part of our whole data, that is 100%. And when you talk about the cumulative frequency, now you are telling that people with age group of 10 to 19 and 20 to 29 are making 41.7% of my whole data, that is 100%. It is the sum of your groups. You can note this, that the first row we have 8.7% cumulative frequency, that is similar. It is up till now cumulative frequency is just you make a pie chart, and now you are moving your pie chart just like the handles of watch. When you move in the next, your cumulative frequency becomes large, that you have covered almost 41.7% of your pie chart. Now when you move again to 30 to 39, you have covered almost 59.2% of your data. And while reaching the 60 to 69% age group, you have covered the 96% part of your data. This is the sum of above row. I would say that cumulative frequency is the sum of uh, one group above plus the relative frequency of the point of interest or the third group. I think I am able to explain these clearly. Sir? Can anyone hear me? Abdullah?
Yes, but let's see if we can, how much time do you think it will take you?
Not much, sir. These are some basic concepts. We are now starting SPSS, taken
Okay.
examples of data entry, sir.
Okay, so let's see if
So
we can, let's see if we can finish by 10:40, and then we can keep 10 minutes for question and answer. Okay.
sure, sir. Inshallah, it will be covered. So central tendency. What is a central tendency? It is the measure of frequencies. It is the tendency of your data to cluster around a central part. I will discuss with examples like arithmetic mean, median, mode. You all are familiar with this. Mean is the average, median is the middle part of your data, and mode is the fashionable, that how many that what observation or what number is occurring the most in your data. I have taken example 2, 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6. So this is the mode. 5 is the most fashionable or the most occurring observation in my data. This is called the mode. And I have mentioned here the word as a skewed data. Skewed data is actually the data that do not lies in the central part, that don't lies in the central part of your graph or the central part of your uh, while making a graph. Just it is a simple example. And if it moves to left or right, you will say it like it is skewed towards left, positive skew, skewed towards right, it is positive, skewed towards left, it is negative. These are just the concepts you will not. And now what are the test of significance? While you are doing data analysis on any software, you applies the test of significance to uh, support your findings or to test your findings that are you correct or not. Let me tell here that in descriptive studies we actually do not need test of significance. We applies these tests of significance basically in analytical or the quantitative studies. So but in descriptive studies we actually encountered chi-square test, p-value test. Most of you are familiar, or for the juniors or from the initial years of medical school, chi-square test we use. Actually we applies these tests to support our findings or supports our stance. If we got some they have some value of significance. If it comes if your finding follows that number or the value in a significance or in a positive manner, your finding will be, your data will be, your test will be significant, your findings are accurate. So chi-square test in actually in chi-square test we use to differentiate between of two groups. We compare those our findings. And in t-test, z-test and ANOVA test we actually compare the means. And if z-test and t-test is further divided on the basis of sample size, if we have a sample size less than 30, then we will apply t-test. And if we have sample size of 30 more than, it will be z-test. These tests of significance will inshallah be covered in the next parts of our webinars, inshallah. So in descriptive studies we usually involve test of significance, that is chi-square test, p-value, and it is significant if it comes, our test comes, our value comes less than 0.05. It is a cutoff value. So the softwares that we use for that data analysis, it is SPSS, Stata, SAS, and Smart PLS, Python, and R software. The R software and the Python, they are actually programming softwares. And Stata is also a programming. For the beginners and for most of the student and for myself, I usually preferred SPSS. It involves programming, but in the back you just operate it like Windows. It is just like a difference between Windows and other operating systems that exist before Windows. So in SPSS you just move cursor and you do not need to code a proper program and then do your analysis. So let's come to the basics of SPSS, and we have now a proper background to operate SPSS. So please don't worry, we will cover it in detail inshallah, and nothing will be left behind. These are just a simple. Now you all have enough background to start SPSS, and now you will just see the practical things. You just need to apply your knowledge. So what is SPSS? SPSS, what we will discuss is in introduction to SPSS, we will create a data entry file, and we will learn how to enter the variables in our data set, and how you will entering a survey data. And we have covered the understanding of variables and data set. And now here we will just cover the introduction, data entry, entering survey data, and descriptive statistics. So this is IBM SPSS. It is the statistical package for social sciences. So its latest version is 28. It is a paid software, but you can also do a free trial for 14 days, and it has a free version too. And most of the students usually do SPSS and use SPSS as a pirated versions. So SPSS has three windows. We will just cover up the slides, and then I will give you all a proper demo. SPSS has three windows: a data window, an output window, and a syntax window. Here you will find the code, the programming code that SPSS has done for you. SPSS has number of variables that are present as columns. It has total numbers of 32,767 variables. And in cases as rows, you enter your mm, participants data. It is 2.15 billion. SPSS, in it has interface of data view and variable view. We will do it in demo. And in variable, you actually code your whole questionnaire as in variable view, and in data view you just enter the data. SPSS has similar options like other program like file, edit, view, data, transform, analyze. What can be done from these things, I will showing in the uh, demo. So how to create new variables, we will cover it in a demo. It is better to cover them. And how you create a data file, we will cover it in demo. And now, what is in the basic question for the beginners? And I think most of the experts and even me do not know how to deal the data that involves scales. And either it is very beginning. I have learned this in my final year when I encountered my research, research that involves Likert scale. So I was confused now what to do with this scale, how to analyze this data, how to commute, how to calculate, and what I can do. So I started learning from these things. So in we have two methods for scale data. That first, if we count it mean and then record our variable into new variable, and the second is that we just add the scores of variables and then take the average of our scores and then recode it into new variables. And I have mentioned a word Likert scale. Actually, Likert scale, it is a pre-established data collection tool or the scale that used to measure the opinions, attitudes, and behaviors. Now here we are talking some high level concept that if you have a qualitative study and you want to make it quantify or your quantitative, you will use scale, a pre-established scale, or you can use your scale made by yourself. So here we have end of our presentation. Now I would like to share another screen for the demo. So this is the interface of SPSS. Everyone, can you hear my screen and my voice is clear to all of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Dr.
thank you. So this is the interface. This is the data that I have collected when I was doing my study, and it involves that it have questions, and it involves the response as a disagree, disagree, strongly agree, strongly disagree, neutral, agree. And I was very confused that, and literally I feel like I am quitting this research. This was my second research, because the research when I have started my research journey, it was a cross-sectional survey, knowledge survey. I would also recommend all of you, if you want to learn research in details, first make mistakes, you will face failures, but inshallah in the end you will get success. I am in my house job. I have started my house job last month, and Alhamdulillah, now I have enough knowledge that I can support myself. I am standing on my own feet, Alhamdulillah, and I have do not learn from anyone, or like nobody have time in this era to take. They want to teach you, but they don't have time. They have their other commitments and other things to do. So if you want to stand on your own feet, make mistakes, you will get disappointments, failures, but never get demotivated that I can't do this. I am not able to do this. I am not eligible. I don't have enough potential for this. Make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and in this era, we have so many resources. Alhamdulillah, our seniors, our most seniors at their time, they don't have any resources, enough resources like we have. So just stay yourself motivated and learn from your mistakes. I have learned, I have named this file as a practice file. I used to practice my mistakes and correct my mistakes through this file, because I have published this research in final year, but now I have made this file as a practice file. I have added so many variables here just to learn, just to teach myself. So let's start from the SPSS. This is the data view. Here you will see all of your data that is present in your SPSS, that you have entered in your SPSS. You can see that I have so many variables here. You have so much variables here. You can see this is my data. This is the data that I have entered. So you have different ways to enter your data. I will cover up all this. This is the variable view. Here in the bottom left corner, here I have added a questionnaire. This is very important part. If you entered your questionnaire rightly, you entered your questionnaire very accurately, you labeled your variables very accurately, your data will never you will never get wrong results, inshallah. In here we entered our variables. So in simple words, you can say we entered our questionnaire. So I am entering a new variable just to teach, like, what variable name? It's age. Now this is something, sorry, I have already age 3. I'm just labeling it as. Now here I need to tell that tell the software that what type of variable this I'm labeling this. Here you have numeric. If your variable is, we have discussed quantifiable, then you will label it as a numeric. And these have different dollar, date, string. If your variable is qualitative, you will label it as string. Now age is in number and I am making it qualitative, categorical. I'm doing wrong thing. Software will give me the result, but I'm doing wrong thing. So I will label it as, leave these things default. What is label? Age, child. This is just a label or the question. No, this is the one thing that you want to learn. Here in values, we give the answers. We give numbers to our options. I'm giving value 1. I'm in label as 10 years. 2 as 20 years. I'm just taking two age groups, 10 year and 20 years. If you have other groups or groups, you will label similarly like this. 1 is equal to 10, 2 is equal to 20. Missing is something like, do you have any data missed, that you have a participant number 38, you have missed his data. In columns, leave it as default. Align, it is just, do you want your data to be on right side display of the column or the left side. Now this is measure. How you are going to measure? If your data is scale, you have a scale to measure that variable. enter it as a scale. If you have nominal, ordinal, scale, we have discussed these variables in detail. So age is measured as a scale, I have added as a scale. This is now I have added a new variable. It will appears in the right of my sheet here.
Dr.
Now,
Dr. Heather, can you go back to the previous
yes, sir.
one? I just wanted to ask a question, and I think that would help them too. Can you go back to variable view where you added the
Yes, sir.
variable? So in the value is when, let's say if it is you're adding gender or sex as a variable. So if you label 1 as a male and 2 as a female, it should be able to read those numbers, because SPSS only understand numbers. It does not
Numbers.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So that's where you do add a value to your characteristics, right? 1 for male, for
Yes, sir.
example, 2 for female. Okay, so this is for
Yeah.
the participant.
I'm just adding to Dr. Sadiq's input that in programming, in computer language, computer understand the language of 1 and 0. Just similarly, like SPS said, it understands the numbers. Like example, sex 2, I have already. Now, what is its type? It is string. If you don't have their type, the type of your variable, label it as a string. Leave this in default male female. I just now here in value, SPSS cannot understand. It is a programming. It cannot understand male female. Just Dr. Sadiq told everyone that if we label it female, we will give it value to SPSS to understand that 1 will be equal to female, 2 will be equal to male. And how it is now, you can see that if it has an artificial intelligence too. This software knows that male female are the nominal variables, they are nominated variables. So this is how you enter your data. And if you have a scale, I have already entered. The whole process is same, just like I have added 1 is equal to strongly agree, 2 is equal to disagree, 3 is equal to neutral, 4 is equal to agree, 5 is equal to strongly agree. I have just, or if you have so many questions, you can Control C, copy, and you can paste it here. It will automatically. And how you nominate these are. So this is how you enter your data. And now in data, you can also import. You can import it from the Excel sheet, from CVS data, from text, SAS data, or you can just enter your data just like one. I have already entered my questionnaire or the key. So as in here, I can just label as this, or I can from this option that you can see my cursor is present just below the help 1 and A. With this number, you can convert your data or the data from wording to numbers. SPSS will understand numbers, but is I can show you here that I have mentioned like strongly agree, disagree. By pressing this number, I can see my data in alphabets, and again pressing this, I can see it as a key 1212, that the value that I have given to. Similarly, if we add in sex like 1, 2, male, it automatically coming. So it saves you so much time. If you write male, it's just like 2, 1, 2, 1, and when you press this, it will as a 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. So this is how you enter your variables or questionnaire here, add your scale here, mention it, given it a value, give it a proper measure that we have discussed in the start, to make a background for this. And here these are the options. In file you can import data that has already on Excel sheet, or you can enter here on SPSS manually, just like I have added. You can save your data, you can just like Control S, save. In edit, in view, you can see the bars, status bars. In data, it has so much options, just like the all Pythons. In the start, you will encounter only analyze option and transform option. If you have a scale data, you will need to open the transformation, and in the start you will just need to go to analyze. This is type of analysis. It involves quantitative, qualitative, all types of analysis, significance, Bayesian, descriptive. You need to go to descriptive statistics. You go to frequencies. Now you want to know that how much frequency your data have, or the how much age the people present in your group have. I have added it, age. Now what type of statistics do you want to measure, that what measures of frequencies you want to calculate, mean, median, mod. Leave this is as a default. Now it has also option, do your data is skewed data or not? You want to check for the skewness? Yes, I want to check for the skewness. Do you want to calculate the measures of dispersion? Yes, I want to calculate measures of dispersion like standard deviation. Continue. Here you can also, SPSS has given you an option that you do not need to make charts by yourself separately. It gives you an option. So I would say that I need bar charts or pie charts. I need pie charts. Remember one thing, never calculate or ask SPSS to make frequencies. Always click on percentages. The charts present in percentages are more accurate. You need just display frequency tables. Yes, display frequency tables. Okay. And here, this is the output window. Here, my analysis has been done in minutes. It gave me the age 25 and below. These are 46%. Their percent relative frequency is this. Their cumulative frequency is this. As we have discussed, 26 to 30.
So,
They
Dr.
have,
Haddon,
sorry.
we cannot see
Yes,
the
sir.
output window. So can you change that? We are still saying data view.
Okay, sir. Actually, it is another window. So it now, can you see my screen?
We can see your screen, but we are not seeing the output window. Yeah, now
This
we
is
can
the
see.
output window, sir. No?
Yeah, we can see it
Again
now.
sharing
We
my,
can see it now. So for everyone,
again
what
sharing
happens
screen, sir.
is when you do, for example, run descriptives or frequencies, all the results that are calculated open up in an output a sheet or screen. That's what it is.
Hello, Dr. Sadiq. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, sorry, I was done.
Okay. As actually your voice is bird. I thought that it from my end, from my internet issue. Am I audible and my visible to all of you?
Yes.
So in this output window, we have the frequency table. We have absolute frequency, percentage, that here is relative frequency, and cumulative frequency. As we have discussed it in the details, SPSS have calculated this for ourselves. As a command to make a pie chart too. So it gives me pie chart. Not so much beautiful. This is a very a default uh, type of chart, but you can make chart from here. We have options for graphs. You go to graph, you go to chart builder, and then you it will again will disappear my screen. If you want to make another graph by yourself, I would suggest use the Microsoft Word. It have so much beautiful templates, so many templates for graphs. Just took the percentages from SPSS and devise your chart from Microsoft Word. I'm again sharing the screen of SPSS, so we discuss another things. So that from analyze, you will go to descriptive statistics and you will do the measures of frequencies and frequencies for the descriptive statistics. If you want to analyze to apply the test of significance, so just take an example that I want to analyze my age group. I have labeled it as age new with this, and I will apply all the same things. I want to apply chi-square test that we used in SPSS. So again, all the things, format, styles, and then you will press for the display clustered bar charts. Yes, I want to. So this is the cross tab. Again, can you all hear? Can you all see the cross tab that we have done, that we apply the test of significance on age and another variable?
Yes, Dr. Ali.
Okay, Abdullah, thank you. So this is how we compared or apply two variable chi-square test on two variables. Basically, we do not need it in descriptive statistics, but mostly we use chi-square test in our descriptive studies too.
Okay. Dr. Heather, we have only 3 minutes. Do you have more to cover, or we can just, take the questions?
Sir, I just want to show the calculation of a scale. Just
Sure.
need 3 minutes.
Okay.
more.
Yeah.
So if you have, now we have talked about the scale variables, that you have a strongly agree. What to do with these types of, you can't analyze like C1, C2, 3, C4, C4, C5, C6, like these are 9 variables. How to make them only one variable? In this way, I have already calculated that total scores. Like this is laissez-faire leadership. These are the total scores that I have calculated. These are the total scores. So how I have calculated these scores. I will go to transform, then compute, and here I have calculator. I will like just first of all function group. What type of function? You always select it as a statistical. Do you want to calculate mean? These are the two methods that we have discussed. I want to calculate the mean direct. So here in the box, where is my cursor? Sorry, that here is my cursor. In this box, SPSS will guide you how to write a expression for it. So I will write it as mean, that SPSS has given me the expression. Then I want to take the this variable. I will select this, add this. Then it says you need to put comma. I have comma. Then again variable, and if I have done with all, I've closed the brackets. Okay. Mean you can't calculate your everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just follow the instructions that have been given by the your SPSS expression. Here in target value, you will name it as MA. I have just named it as MA. So when you have you can see numeric argument required, the function specified was not supplied. If you have typed or done the wrong expression, you have entered the wrong expression that has been given here, your result or your calculation will never be done. We can again do this with other variables that I have mentioned here. We will write it as mean, bracket close, this variable, then comma, this variable, then comma, this variable, then comma. And if I have done with all the things, then I will not put up the comma. I will just close the bracket and I will go to mean. So it says my command has been executed. Now I will go to the last. Here you can see another that it has calculated the mean. Now you can see the values like 2.33, 1.33. So this is the mean of my variables. That if you are doing a knowledge, attitude and practice survey, if you want to compare that what age group has more knowledge, now you don't need to compare or cross tab all 9. You just commute, take mean of all knowledge questions and then compare that mean with the age group. Am I able to explain this?
So I think let's end this.
We are yes sir, we have finished
So if you can make a video on this, but what I would do is I'm gonna share a separate Zoom link. We actually have to end. Another session needs to start. So for participants who are
sure
here,
sir, I will also sure sir, I will also inshallah share this demo video, the tutorial video with you. You can spread to the all the participants.
Sounds good.
So
sorry, Abdullah, I'm gonna wrap up, but for participants who are here, let me share a link for another Zoom meeting. So please join. It's gonna have a limit of 100, but let's see how many of you can join, or I can go on.
We have 130.
But thank you, Dr. Ali Heather, for doing this. I really appreciate that. We'll see. I think a lot of people want to see more on SPSS, so we'll make sure that happens. So I have to end the session now.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.